Hello, everybody, and welcome back to A Storyteller's Role. I'm your host, David Lanier, and this is episode 7 of turning Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope, into a adventure template for Dungeons and Dragons. Wow, we've come a long way. We learned about the Shachter Singer principle. We learned about emotional uh, different regulations in your story as you try to get people into your story that you're telling at your tables. So let us take a look at what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I'm going to give you a little bit of the insight into the back structure. Let's forget about plot points and beats and all of that for the moment. Let's just talk about index cards. I take the story that I'm trying to adapt or write or turn into or any kind of concept that I'm giving into a adventure, whether it's for Dungeons and Dragons or Call of Cthulhu or anything else, it doesn't matter. Okay. As I try to adapt that into my imaginary sort of hodgepodge mess of a mind and all the things that I've looked into, I try to look at the elements that make for an interesting story. And some of the elements that make for an interesting story are the contrasting elements. The contrasting elements make for an interesting story. Let us take a look at what I mean by that right now. Hmm. We just celebrated Easter. There's our good friend, Cthulhu himself, dressed up like the Easter Bunny, trying to gas out eggs to all the kids. But they're terrified. He's not being terrifying, and he's not trying to do anything terrible, but the kids are terrified. Contrast. If we have a good story that we're telling, whether it's a comedy or a tragedy, or an action adventure or something, we want to start at the opposite point or the opposite end of the spectrum for our heroes. They start down on the opposite side of where we want them to be. Otherwise, there's no point in going to it. Now, if we're telling a comedy, we usually start with the inciting incident already having happened, right? Like, for example, maybe it's your last day at work and you have to train the new guy, right? But it turns out they actually still need you. And up at top, right, somebody got uh, in trouble for suggesting that you leave before whatever because of the mainframe computer being needing to be monitored or whatever. You overhear this conversation because you were in the executive bathroom because you figured, what the heck, I might as well use it. What are they going to do? Fire me? And because you were in the executive bathroom, you overheard the conversation and now you have leverage. See how that's funny or could be? So we have a farce. We have a farce that we're telling of Dungeons and Dragons and Star Wars parody together. And the farce that we're telling, our story, is a bit adventurous and fantastical and funny at the same time. It's one hot magical mess of nonsense. So what we're going to do is we're going to change things around a little bit. So I'm going to give you the first few beats of the story that I'm working on and how I'm doing it. I'm doing it on these index cards because I don't railroad my players. My players are not going to be railroaded. Ding, 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 ding. Where's the next crossing? Ding, ding. Where's the next plot point? Ding, 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 ding. We go off of what they do and their actions, and then we sort of riff that off, and then we try to tie it back into the original goal that they had. And that goal, may have other points that meet into it. But those points either come out of the actions that they came up with because I'm listening to what they did, or there is a story that I have to tie into, and somehow we have to continue with that storyline going. So Our setup, our long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, is the following. Long, long ago, on a farm far, far away, the organic source reservists were minding their own business when they got a plea for help from the High Council of Fourscore Wizards, the High Elves. The High Elves, long ago, were betrayed by the warriors of the coast. And in an effort to get themselves protected in the great battle of the Clone Wars, right, they enlisted the help of the old school reservists. The old school reservists, in exchange for helping the High Elf Wizard Council of Fourscore, were granted a limited license agreement, right, and shown the ways of the farce for those with the ability to use it. Sadly, the ability to use the farce was few and far between for the old school reservists. The last one of their line was General Hopesby I. General Hopesby I long ago retired to the Isle of Dread with the original strain, the Cloud Walker. In an effort to get this original strain, Tim, a high elf wizard himself, but an evil dark lord, with whom the farce was strong, but so was the narkness. So the evil narc lord Tim betrayed the High Elf Council and made an alliance with the warriors of the coast. The warriors of the coast were known throughout the land for their battle acumen. Their battle acumen was unparalleled, and they were fearsome warriors. They were warriors unparalleled in their fighting prowess, and oh boy, you don't want to ever see them coming up on your territory. And somehow they managed to gain control and garner a capture of a legendary beast, the Hazato. The legendary beast itself is impervious to all forms of harm. We don't know its gender. There's only one of its kind. It's a very lonely creature. It cannot reproduce. It's impervious to poisons, all natural harm, right? Any weaponry that attacks it, if it's made of a magical material or magical embellishment, has a 50% chance of breaking on its hide. Any spells cast at it have a 50% chance of being resent to the caster or the area effect that it might impact. And when it's pissed, it leaves nothing but devastation in its wake. The Hazato and the warriors of the coast and the evil narc lord Tim have somehow managed, with their farce powers, to control this beast. And they are calling upon the old school reserves one last time. Come help us. Come help us find Hopesby I. But these guys are retired and probably in AA. So we can't call upon them. We need a new hope. We need you. We need you, you players. You players are going to be our new, we're going to set you up with armor and everything. Of course we'll set you up and then we'll get you all geared up and ready. But you are our new hope. You got to blow up the Death Star or control the Hazato or whatever it is we're going to do. And that's our setup. That's our template. And all of that fits on an index card. two of them to be exact. Long ago in a farm far, far away, blah, 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 blah. Show a picture of Hazuto, blah, 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 blah. Collective. That's our setup. Beat one. Enter the Tarask, the Hazuto. This thing is already on the wings. You can hear it in the background. You hear it in the background. It's screaming and it's lumbering as it's coming towards the OSR Farm Collective, a peaceful farm of retired reservists who were growing medicinal herbs and just enjoying themselves, are now under attack. And Mayor McSoy calls the party in. Not the entire party, mind you, just a subgroup of the party. The paladin and the rogue, or the cleric and the rogue. You want the dichotomy of C3PO and R2D2, and those are the two players that are going to call in. They're going to be our first, well, our beats of the starting of the story. They don't know the rest of the party. Their job is to go recruit the rest of the party into helping them defeat the Hazuto, which has already destroyed the OSR reserve farm, a peaceful place, right? That was uh, just minding their own business, growing some medicinal herbs for the High Elf Council, right? The Cloud Walker. And this thing destroyed it. And they caught Mayor McSoy and his daughter, and they're holding her hostage, and they're going to destroy more towns and more villages, probably some that are under the protection of the party, or maybe you just happen to live there. We're all first level, so make it realistic, but give them skin in the game. Okay. Now, much like Star Wars, we have these beats, but we are not telling the Star Wars movie. We're telling a story that's adapted from the Star Wars movie, and our story has a Hazuto, which is really a Tarask. It has the Warriors of the Coast, which are known for their fearsome warriorness, right? And we have the High Elf Wizards, and then we have some retired adventurers who are probably, too old to do anything, and they need the new hope. They need your help. Okay. And they're going to go to the usual mechanicians. So we're going to start with the rogue and the paladin, or cleric and the paladin, that dichotomy, right? Cleric and the rogue, that kind of thing, that dichotomy. We can start with them, and they're already being invaded by Tim. Tim, the Dark Lord, has already made an appearance. Tim is already here, right? Doing his evilness. The Hazuto has yet to arrive, but Tim has it in control, and he goes, "The Hazuto will destroy all of you. Where is Hopesby One? Bring me the Cloud Walker." Right? He betrayed the organic growers license agreement, and he wants his clones. He wants to corner the market, and he's threatening the High Elf Council, who he's betrayed. And he's attacking them, and once again, they need help, but they can't get it from them, so they need a new hope, and that's why we're giving these two, a missive. Run, Forrest, run. Take these missives and go find somebody to help us and go find Hopesby One. Hopesby One, last we knew, was on the Isle of Dread. Go to go find somebody and help us. You're our only hope. Oh no! Enter the Hazito. Town's devastated. Players must run or fight that thing. If they fight that thing, they die. They have a choice. Try and save anybody or whatever. It's pretty much going to fail, but you can have your little die rolls in there and whatever. You can do whatever you want, but the main thing is, at the end of it all, they must realize they have utter hopelessness of defeating that thing without getting their game on with Hopesby One. So they need to run off and find Hopesby One, but they don't know the rest of the party and they need help. So this is our action sequences. Boom, boarded, boom, right? Right there, boom. So we had our setup. We have introduction to Tim. We have introduction to Mare, right? Mare gives the missive here, find Hopesby One, right? Mare tells Party, go find them. Mare gets captured, right? Party escapes. That is the subgroup of the party, right? And then we get to our next beat, beat 8, where we're going to meet the rest of the party for a moment at a lull period, a down period, because we just had all this excitement. So let's have a little bit of a downbeat, and we meet everybody at the pub. We meet everybody at the pub, and everybody is sort of just calming down, relaxing, having a good time, playing games, maybe putting together a few puzzles. Who knows, right? They're just chilling at the pub, maybe drinking some ale, right? Maybe chilling out. Who knows what they're doing? Relax. And we do some pub stuff. They're playing dice, they're shooting games. Who knows? Didn't really write anything for this. You just sort of meet the party, right? Dot, 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 dot. Okay. Wait for it to get to enough of a lull period. And the key to doing that is listening. You have to listen as a storyteller and a game master. If you're not listening to the party and to the players and to the game as it's evolving, you are not doing your job. So listen for when it starts to get a little lull. And right at that moment, that's when Paladin and Rogue burst in with their stuff. And you allow them 3 beats. Explain, plea for help, however it goes, bursts in troopers. That's what I have on the back of this, burst in troopers, right? That's what I put on the back of these things. So on the front, I have what is going to take port, and it's in bullet points. I don't know if you can really see it, but it's in bullet points, right? And the bullet points are boom, this happens, boom, this happens, boom, this happens, right? These are the little sequence bits that I have, like I've been pointing out. These are the beats. And the rest is up to the party to fill in with their role play. Not rolling dice, not encounters, not monsters I'm throwing at them, but their role play. So we already have them bursting in with a mission that the party is going to introduce to itself by not knowing the actual party, right, together, and we'll role play that. And they come in, hey, plea for help, plea for help. As they get to the plea for help, and it's kind of coming here, and you got to listen for that moment where it's getting, yeah. And that's when bursts in random encounter Johnny Law. Only Johnny Law is not really sure if they got the right people, because Johnny Law is very confused at the moment. Johnny Law was hampered during the getaway for whatever reason, and Johnny Law didn't get a good look at the Paladin and the Rogue, right? And since they didn't get a good look at the Paladin and the Rogue, they're a little bit hampered. They don't know what to do. They don't know where's anything, and they're like, "These are we're looking for a Paladin and a Rogue. We're looking for they're sort of shortish but tall. One might have a hat. We're not very sure." And they put up a wanted poster that vaguely, very vaguely, looks similar enough to somebody in the party that the party goes, "We better get out of the bar real quick before we're, in trouble and turned into whatever. We don't have enough money to pay the bounty on this." So they run. Okay. It's our neat trick. They run, and this is our moment of the Star Wars uh, template where they go, "These are not the droids you are looking for." Now, notice they haven't met Hopesby 1 yet, right? We've created that moment for the party itself, not Hopesby 1. We're not introducing an NPC at the moment. The NPC is not going to overpower the party at the moment. We don't want the NPC driving the rest of the story. That is railroading, and we don't do that. Notice that we already have the party already at an adventure point and ready to go somewhere, and they already know that there is this evil wizard named Tim. Okay, so you let the paladin and everybody explain that there's this evil the wizard named Tim, and they have the warriors of the coast, right? So you let them explain that, and they need the rest of the party to kind of help them get together and fight, the powers that might possibly want to destroy them, and it's just one hot mess. Please help us, right? Please help us. Oh my God, we got to go find Hopesby 1. He's the one who has the original means by which to control the Hazato, right? So now we're off to that point where you're going to be going to the Isle of Dread, where Hopesby 1 was last seen. The Isle of Dread is going to be our midpoint where they get captured or end up pretending to be captured if they wish. We're going to figure some way out around that. But that's in our next adventure, the midpoint on to the rest of the conclusion. So right now, we haven't really done a lot, but we've created quite a bit. See? Let's review. Let's review. We start at a low point by giving them the setup of the old school reservists and what they're doing and whatever, whatever, whatever. And it sounds kind of like, oh man, you're making it, it's funny. It's not, yeah, right? You introduce Tim. Tim threatens the Hazato. The Hazato isn't seen exactly in the first scene. You just have the sounds of the Hazato gearing up and coming towards things and destroying stuff, and the smell of smoke coming into the room, and all of that. And you're using these senses to describe the moment. I suggest out of the five senses that we have, you use three to tie your party in. You can hear the screaming of townsfolk and villagers as the Dark Lord Tim can be heard in the background. He's the Cloud Walker. The smell of smoke and burning flesh and embers from, destroyed farms and the like fill the room. Smoke clouds your eyes, you could barely see, and you start choking and coughing on the fumes of the dark smoke coming into the chambers of Mayor McSoy's office. Suddenly, you can hear the doors about to be burst open, and Mayor McSoy suggests that you go through a secret passage down to the stables and escape. He'll hold off Tim. Go, go, you're our only hope. Doors burst open. Party may want to whatever. Let them know they're outclassed and outgunned. That's important. They must understand the trouble they're in. You must get them to really grasp the they're outclassed, outgunned, whatever. Run, run, run. They run, they're seen running away, they're caught sort of running away, not captured, but it's known that they got away. Where they went to, nobody knows. What they look like, nobody's really sure, etc. That sets us up for that scene down in the bar where we meet the rest of the party and we're talking to the rest of the party, and the rest of the party is going to get recruited into this hot mess, right? That part where we're recruiting the rest of the party and we're going, we need you. That's set up by this little chaos happening, and we run them in there, and they come in, and bang! Let's meet the rest of the group. The rest of the group is going to have to get a little bit of coaxing and whatever. This is why you need to join us. This is whatever. Yeah, yeah, okay. We don't have whatever, 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 whatever. Now, getting to the Isle of Dread, getting to the midpoint, how they get there, how they get around, we don't know. But we've already put in to the scene, the cantina scene. We've already put in the cantina scene where these aren't the droids you're looking for. We've added elements of the original, capture scene and the escape. We've skipped the whole Jawas stuff. We just had a chase sequence because we don't need to capture the party to force them to get to play together. That's ridiculous. So we've taken that out. We haven't introduced Hopesby 1 yet because Hopesby 1 is a non-player character, and we don't want the non-player character overshadowing everything. This is the point where you, as a game master, choose randomly one of the players who has the power of the farce within them. They don't know it yet. They don't have it yet. It's not developed yet, right? But Hopesby 1 is going to recognize that they have the power of the farce within them. They have some potential for this. Okay? Randomly select, die roll or something. Don't tell the players who it is until you have that reveal. In the meantime, this is where we got to go. Okay? So now they're in this situation where they're being chased by Johnny Law because of guilt by association and what have you. They have an adventure which they choose if they wish to go on, right? And they have a vacation destination, the Isle of Dread. But Isle of Dread is definitely a D&D thing. AD&D, old school, all the way, definitely. Anyway, they're going to get to the Isle of Dread, and there we're going to have some more fun. But you see, in Star Wars, they had introduction set up, right, long ago, capture sequence, uh, escape, another capture sequence, meet Farm Boy Walton, buy droids, get party together, right? Go find Obi-Wan, right? Shove them into cantina scene, right? Meet Han Solo and the rest of the people, right? Then go off and get captured on their escape to the Death Star. Well, we've skipped a few parts because we're not writing a screenplay. We're writing an adventure. And we want to keep the action going. What's going to fill in the rest of the adventure for us is the parts that the players play in those moments where we have them. But between each beat, notice that we have boxed in some dichotomy. Chase sequence over here, downbeat here, encounter. Encounter meets with the story, is part of the story. Are these the droids we're looking for? No, these are not the droids we're looking for. We're not sure what that encounter is. I have an encounter written on the back of each card and some plot points written on each card. See? Plot points and what have you on each card. And then that's all I have. Just this. This is all I prepared. This is my adventure. Right here. Not much. If I sold it as a module, it'd be like 12 pages, maybe 14 with if you had artwork in it or something. But you know, it's not a lot. It doesn't take much. I hope that helps. May all your die rolls stay blessed. Now let's review and go back over some of the things that we covered in the original videos. Schachter-Singer principle has a line up here and down here. And our takeaway from that is that your audience will attribute, if they have a physiological experience, right, that physiological experience to the experience they're having right here, right now, as opposed to anything it reminds them of. See? For example, I might look like somebody you know, and I might remind you of somebody you know, and because I remind you of somebody you know, you attribute attributes or qualities that that person has upon me, even though you don't know me. This is something that we do all the time. It's a human sort of thing. Well, all we're doing is taking that, creating a physiological experience that your players are going to experience by the story and the way you tell it. You need to know the pacing of the story. And by knowing the pacing and having the pacing of the story and creating it with your little dichotomy points, one here, right? Systolic, dystolic pressure, you're creating a beat. You're creating action. You're creating a moment. By creating that moment, right, you're creating the story. Once you've created that part of the story or that element of the story, then you need to pass it along. You need to hand it off to your players because they are the ones telling the story. You're the narrator. You're the one telling the consequences of the story. You're the one giving the setup of the story. You're the one creating the framework of the story. You're the one giving us the rails of the roller coaster that they're going to be on. But the roller coaster decision and every decision they make is theirs. Like one of those choose your own adventure novels, they choose. And their choices have consequences, and those consequences are what make the rest of the story. Keeping those consequences within the framework of the story that you have written, which in our particular case is defeat the Tarask at the end of the thing. Somehow, that's our goal, defeat the Tarask. How they do it, we don't know. The abilities and the things we're going to give them within the story are going to be farcical in nature. They are going to be game related, story related. That is, they're going to be somewhat believable or abilities. They're going to relate to some form of swords or sorcery, right? They're going to have to level up to various points to get the ability to use those powers. And then at the midpoint, we're going to give them just enough tools by which they will be able to take the fight from being pursued to being the pursuers. Even though they're outclassed and outgunned, even though the big evil, bad evil guy is still way up here and they don't have whatever, they have hope now. At the midpoint, they have some ability at the midpoint, which gives them the chance that they might actually meet their goals, right? Once we get to them to that point, we're going to snatch that hope away with a pinch. We're going to snatch that hope away with a pinch. We're going to give them a little bit more hope with a level up. We're going to snatch more hope away. We're going to put on more afterburners and everything else. There's going to be some crap that happens. They're going to be in that trash compactor. They're going to have to escape. Obi-Wan's going to die. They're going to realize they did not actually escape. There's going to be a fight sequence. They're going to realize that they didn't really get out of anything. They were followed. They just got rid of some of their pursuers and got some more time, but they know where they're going. And they're going to have to find some way to defeat that Taras, and they don't have everything there to give it to them, right? And then they're going to get to a point where they're about to defeat the Tarask or whatever they're going to do, and that hope or that plan may or may not follow through because here is the last bit of screw you. You don't have a snowball's chance in hit. Oh, wait. Use the farce Luke. That's our final plot point. Use the force Luke. Blow up Death Star. With force, with farce. Hmm? So, when we tell a story, that's where we want the bits to fit in. In between the moments of, oh no, and oh, are you kidding me? We want role play. To get that takes a little bit of finesse, takes a little bit of experience, takes a little bit of practice. To help you get there, create your story on little index cards to re-emphasize to you and to everybody else, you are not writing a novel. You are not writing a screenplay. You are not running an adventure. You are not writing an adventure. You're writing a story, which has these elements. And you have other elements in your story which are not part of what you wrote. You're not writing the paladin says, and the paladin has to do this, and then the cleric can do that. You're not running the game for them. You are not playing the game. That's what most DMs have a problem with. They write their adventure as if they are running or playing in the game. Well, this is what I would do. Well, this is what I would expect them to do. Well, this is what would, that never, ever happens. Okay? Here's what happens. You have a study, you have a room full of like apprentice wizards that might have some spell books, and you figured that the spell books would be something that the wizards would want, right? But the wizards are afraid, so they cast fireball and destroy everything in the room, including the spell books, which you were going to give them as a reward. Paladin somehow is okay with you just killing innocent people who were studying and doing nothing, even though, you know, you're in an evil warrior temple, whatever. So it's not unheard of that you would do that. Paladin is fine, and there's no reason the paladin would have any problem with it. But the paladin, you know, probably would have aided on the urge of caution and said, look, there's books and stuff. We could get information. Oh, okay, just kill them all. So you see, players don't always play the way they say they're going to play. The group doesn't always go the way they say they're going to go. You could have all sorts of consequences happen each time. So in order to prevent that, you write, these are what's going to happen. This is the important moments. These are the important moments. I'll give you an example in a minute. Pardon me. So this is for scene one. Mayor McSoy's office. Enter Tim. Escape, chase sequence. Mayor McSoy says, I'll hold them off. Party escapes by horseback. Pleas for help can be heard in the background. Senses are smoke, hearing, explosions, and poor vision because of smoke. So smelling, hearing, and seeing are impacted. Party hears pursuers behind them. And then on the back, I had an example of an encounter which I decided later I wasn't going to have a fight sequence, so I crossed it out. But if the party wants to have a fight sequence, I have something on the back for it. And it's a low level fight sequence and adventure, and it just enhances the overall chase sequence. But that's all I have on that. Then on the second card, where they meet the party, I go meets party. I go meets party, has interaction with party, must convince party of help, right? Must convince everyone help us, blank, blank, blank. Key points, explain, boom, boom, boom. Make sure those are explained so that you make sure that they understand the setup, right? Mayor McSoy, find Isla Dread, find Hopesby one, right? We can only control this thing with the power of the Farce, and apparently Hopesby one has the power of the Force. We got to find the Cloud Walker strain, etc. Blah blah blah. Those points, main points conveyed. Once those points are conveyed, that's when I usually have my encounter. My encounter is the troops come in and post up that bolo. This is these are not the droids you're looking for moment, but there is no use of psionics or anything. We don't have to have that. We don't have to have any of that interaction. We just have that moment and then they run. When they run, they're going to run into Hopesby 1. Hopesby 1 is going to be somewhere on the Isle of Dread. How he got there, where he is on the Isle of Dread, what he's doing on the Isle of Dread, etc. I don't know. We don't know. We haven't gotten that part yet. This is why we have this, our up to the midpoint. So up to the midpoint, the players know what's going on. They know that there's something that has to be going on. They know that there's something that has to be gone somewhere. They have their big bad evil guy. They have their obstacle. They have their end goal, right? They have some interest and skin in the game. Everyone, right? Some more than others. And at some point, they're going to meet Hopesby one, and the farce is going to be strong within one of them that you randomly selected, giving them even more skin in the game. We're now close to getting to our midpoint. If they need more hope, you can ramp up pinch one, right? Pinch one is where now we have our whole party. Everybody's going to go, dude, you got the ability to do it. You're going to do it. You have no choice, right? There's nothing left for you here. You have this adventure or we'll play something else. See, that pinch one is going to be where they find out that they went back and the bolo was open for them and Uncle Owen was killed along with the aunt and Luke goes, well, I guess there's nothing waiting for me here, and he leaves. That's his pinch one. And that pinch one we're going to create for the whole party. That's the difference between a screenplay and an action adventure adapted from a screenplay. I hope that helps. And again, may all your die rolls stay blessed.